Yes, you high-level executive. Yes, you mama of 4. Yes, you college student with 27 events this week. Yes, you entry-level assistant with a demanding boss. You are in control of your schedule. In fact, there isn't one thing in your life or your calendar right now that you didn't allow to be there. Let that sink in for a second. Being overscheduled? That's on you. Not finding time to feed yourself? You. Spending 2 hours a night watching TV or scrolling Instagram as a way to relax? Also your choice. Girl, the question is never, do you have enough time? The question is, how are you using the time you have? It's possible to put yourself through college while being a stay-at-home mom. Women do it all the time. It's possible to train for a half marathon while working full-time. Women do it all the time. It's possible to build your own business at night after you finish working at someone else's company. I did it. Back when I was still a coordinator working in the entertainment industry, I started to fantasize about what it would be like to own my own company. I dreamed about it endlessly, and in the days before Pinterest, I would tear pictures from magazines and store them in a binder for some day. At the time, I worked 50-plus hours a week at my day job, and I had been married less than a year, so there were plenty of things to fill up my weekends. It was fun to watch marathons of Drew Barrymore movies on TVeso. It was fun to go to the Home Depot and try to remodel our powder room. It was fun to save up for the wagon wheel sampler platter at the Black Angus on date night. And after working all week long, there were few things more enjoyable than hanging out with Dave at home. But as the dream of starting an event planning company began to grow bigger and bigger in my heart, I knew I'd have to give up something. Quitting my job and going solo as a new business owner just wasn't possible. We had a little townhouse with a big mortgage that needed to be paid. It took both our salaries to make that happen. I didn't have the money to go out on my own. I didn't have connections or a mentor or potential clients or a hefty savings account. All I had was time and here's the key, a willingness to trade that time in pursuit of what I wanted. That's how life works. It's been said that if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. For me, that meant I gave up weeknights watching TV with my new husband. I gave up my weekends wandering around Bed Bath & Beyond to find a new duvet for the guest room. Instead, I worked. I interned for local wedding planners so I could learn the industry. I traded hundreds of hours on my feet in heels at weddings and movie premieres for knowledge of how I might be able to do this on my own. I worked for a solid year in one of the hardest, most thankless jobs on the planet, event assistant at high-end parties, in addition to my regular working hours, and I worked them for free. I never got a nickel for those hours. I traded comfortable weekends at home with Dave for the opportunity to work with demanding clients and abusive event planners in order to learn about the industry I wanted to be a part of. Not to put too fine a point on this, but it sucked. Do you think I wasn't tired after my regular job? Do you think I wanted to go run a wedding rehearsal for a bridezilla on a weeknight after putting in 10 hours at the office? Do you think I wanted to miss out on friends' birthday parties and weekends away so I could work a wedding? Do you think it wasn't discouraging to be treated badly when I was working for free? Of course it was. But dude, look where it got me. I used the knowledge I learned that year to launch my own event planning company. I used that event planning company to start my blog. That blog gave me this fan base. And later, that year I spent working for Mean Girl event planners gave me the storyline for my first best-selling fiction book, Party Girl. Learning to carve time out of my day back when I first started in business meant that whenever I wanted to commit to something new, I understood that the only thing standing between me and my new goal was a willingness to find time for it. For instance, when I wanted to write that first book, I started waking up at 5 a.m. in order to push toward my word count before my kids woke up. I learned to write whenever and however I could in order to get to my goal. That tactic still serves me to this day. Right now, I'm editing this chapter on the stairs of an overcrowded gate at the Toronto airport. I've just spent 3 days doing press and book signings, and I'm exhausted to the marrow of my bones. But I believe in this book, and I want to get it into your hands as soon as possible, which means I'm choosing to sacrifice some rest time in order to make this happen. If I want to achieve any new thing in my life, the question is never, can I do it? The question is always, what am I willing to give up in order to get it? That's what it boils down to. Not whether or not you have the time, but whether this goal you have is so compelling, so beautiful, so necessary to your future happiness that you're willing to trade your current comfort in order to achieve it. You in? You willing to give up a little of today's rest for tomorrow's possibilities? The first step is to get over the excuse that you don't have time. The next step is to reconfigure the time you do have in order to achieve the goal you're after. Here's how. 1. Make a timeline of your current week. You know how, when you meet with a nutritionist for the first time, they ask you to keep a food diary for a week so you know every single thing you consume? This is the same idea. You need to account for every single hour in an average week. I want you to list out everything you do. The easiest way is to open a calendar app on your phone and document as you go. Did you go on a run that took 45 minutes? Add it. Did you volunteer at the church bake sale? Add in all the time it took, including getting ready, drive time, etc. Did you spend 58 hours this week playing Candyland with your toddler? We all bow down. That's sainthood work right there. Put it in the calendar. Once you've recorded an entire week, figure out where you have the time to add 5 hours a week to work on your goal. Don't hyperventilate. 5 hours is not actually that much time. That's 1 hour a day for 5 days out of 7. That's 1 3-hour session and less than a handful of 30-minute segments. There are a ton of ways to mix and match this time. The point is that you decide right now that you're committing 5 hours a week minimum to your goal. If you've hung out with me long enough, you know that I have some daily habits that help me live my best life, which I call 5 to Thrive. Well, sister, these 5 hours are goal-based and have a fun name too. 5 to Strive. As in, you're going to commit to 5 hours a week striving for your goal, minimum. If you've got more time, give it, but at the very least, make a habit of your 5 hours and stick to it. 2. Once you've set your new schedule, treat your 5 to Strive hours as sacred. If I open your calendar next week, I should see a life that's set up around the things that you want to achieve. Let's say you told me, my goal is to get into incredible shape this year because my husband and I have always wanted to run a half marathon together, and this is our year. If I open your schedule right now, will I see 3 appointments a week to run?